Time to talk about the most fundamental concept in the M language, a structure that helps to create a single, more complex expression. It's called let. Every time you connect to a data source, and even when you create a new blank query, it already contains a let expression. So it's easy to assume that every query must contain one. It doesn't. Replacing everything there with the literal 1, or simply 1 plus 1 for example, both return perfectly valid M expressions. That let expression appears everywhere because it gives us the means to create something that is more complex and at the same time something that is easy to maintain. Instead of writing one large, complex, and deeply nested expression, we can break that logic apart into smaller named expressions. Each one performs a task, and together they produce a single result. Every query contains an expression, and a let expression is a construct to build more complex expressions. Looking at the applied steps pane, each step corresponds to a variable, a named value, within a top-level let expression of that query. Text used to name a variable is called an identifier. It's a unique name that can be used to refer to it. Every let expression has two parts, a let clause and an in clause. A let clause is followed by comma-separated named values, and an in clause is followed by a result expression that determines the outcome for that let expression. Most steps generated by the Power Query user interface have names that contain spaces. Those names use quoted identifiers. A quoted identifier starts with a hash or pound sign and is followed by a name inside double quotation marks. Quoted identifiers are used when a name starts with a number or contains a special character or keyword, for example. For simple names that start with a letter or an underscore and continue without spaces, a regular identifier can be used. That's why it's common to find Pascal case, camel case, or snake case naming conventions. The important thing is that identifiers are used to refer to something, like a variable, a field name, a function, or a query, for example. A variable is a named value. The name or identifier is located before the equal sign and its expression immediately after it. And its value is the result of evaluating one or more expressions. All variables within a let expression are separated by a comma. And the result of a let expression is determined by what follows in the in clause. That can be an identifier, a literal, or any expression in M. It doesn't have to be the last thing there, although that is by far most common. Let's review the most common mistakes. Most issues are related to commas. So when a comma is missing between variables, you will see this error message. Token, comma, expected. Now to resolve that quickly, open the advanced editor and click Show Error. It will highlight the next identifier, in this case, add host, that doesn't have a preceding comma. When you have a comma at the end of the last line within a let expression, you will see this error message. A comma cannot precede an in. That kind of explains itself, but when in doubt, hit Show Error, and it will highlight the culprit, the comma that shouldn't be there. And when you have a double comma at the end of a line, you will see this message, token identifier expected. Now when you hit Show Error, it will highlight the problem for you. That makes these kind of errors easy to resolve. And here's a fun fact. I tested this with a nested let expression, and that show error behavior was exactly the same. Now that's pretty awesome. We've talked about how a step relates to a variable whose name is called an identifier. Here are some things worth knowing about when referring to values. Regular identifiers can also be referred to by using a quoted notation. M is a case-sensitive language, and that applies to how we name things as well. Names need to match exactly, or an error is raised. When expressions are nested, the inner scope can usually access variables defined in its outer or parent scope. However, there is an important limitation, and I will explain that in just a moment. When there's no valid starting point to evaluate an expression, a cyclic reference error is raised. And finally, self-referencing will raise an error too. I'm not referring to recursive functions. That's a separate mechanism, and it's not covered in this video. So let's review the most common issues when referring to values. First, identifiers are case-sensitive and need to match exactly. Or a message like this is shown. The name wasn't recognized. A different letter case is the issue here. To resolve that, locate where that name is used. Try to deduce what it should refer to instead and update its name. It could simply be a spelling error, or maybe that variable was renamed and one of its references was missed. Here we see an identifier, the lowercase letter a. That identifier does exist within this record expression. Still, we see the error message, the name wasn't recognized. So let me call out that this nested record expression has access to the outer or parent scope. It's referencing B. The issue here is that we're not applying field access. That means we need to refer to the record first and then access one of its fields, as shown here. This is an example of a cyclic reference, clearly stated in the error message. A and B both refer to each other. When the dependency chain is traced back from the in clause, there is no valid starting point, because A points to B and B points back to A. This expression can't be resolved. This last one is an example of self-referencing. The error message says the name wasn't recognized. Now that's not very helpful. Troubleshooting, however, remains the same. Look for that identifier and hopefully you will notice that it's referring to itself, so you can resolve it. Time to talk about scope. Here you see two let expressions, one nested inside another. The outer let defines A equal to 5. The inner nested expression assigned to B contains another variable with the exact same name, and its value is equal to 2. Within that inner expression, the inner A takes precedence over the outer one. So when C is evaluated, A plus 1 uses 2 and not 5. So B returns 3. However, when all identifiers are unique, the inner expression can access variables from its outer or parent scope. Now when C is evaluated, A plus 1 equals 5 plus 1. And B returns 6. Time for the technical part on how a let expression works, before I share the best debugging trick ever. So a let expression is evaluated as a single expression. The evaluation of that expression follows the dependency chain, traced back from the in clause. So it's not evaluating top to bottom or bottom to top. Dependencies between variables determine what must be calculated. This means that evaluation is lazy. A variable is evaluated when its value is needed. If nothing refers to it, it may not be evaluated at all and skipped. However, once a value has been calculated, it is fixed. Meaning that the first time a variable is accessed, its expression is evaluated and the result cached. A subsequent reference returns the cached result, either a value or an error. Its value isn't recalculated. There's an important exception for lists, tables, and binary values. These values can be streamed. That means M may not load everything into memory at once. Instead, it can produce those values as they are needed, enumerating them more than once. Usually that produces the same result. But if the source changed between requests or a calculation isn't guaranteed to produce the same result, those separate enumerations can return different results. The value is still immutable. It's just not always calculated once and stored into memory. The documentation describes a let expression as an implicit record expression, and when you place them side by side, the similarity is unmistakable. Both contain named values. Those names can refer to each other, and they are evaluated in the exact same manner. The difference is in what they return. A let expression allows you to return one single value at a time, and a record allows you to review all intermediate values. That's extremely useful when debugging complex nested expressions. Once you're done debugging, simply apply field access to return a single value from one of its fields. Hope you've enjoyed exploring let expressions. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.